who are your two favorite underdog plays this week on the UFC?
Man.
I'm Alan Cislowski here with Jon Litterine from Rotowire. John, let's get right into UFC 262. First off the bat, your last video, you were talking about taking underdogs. That really paid off. What is the underdog theme for all the fights on UFC 262?
Well, in general, the whole card, there's a big underdog theme. There's 11 or 12 fights in the entire card. And the greatest odds you'll find on any fighter is about minus 240, minus 250. That is the highest odds, which means every single solitary fight, according to the Vegas odds, is going to be close. And I can't remember any UFC card, pay-per-view, fight night, any of that stuff, where every single fight on the card was projected to be that close. You almost always see someone at plus 350, plus 400, whatever, at a minimum. This card, nobody beyond minus 240, minus 250, which makes for great betting opportunities pretty much throughout the entire card.
So let's start at the top. Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. Last betting odds that we saw were about minus 135 for Oliveira and about 150 plus 115 for Michael Chandler. Give me a 1-minute breakdown and who you like in this fight.
Yeah, that seems about right to me. I think it's really hard to bet against Charles Oliveira at this point. But I think it's important that we really reset the lightweight division. Khabib Nurmagomedov retired. There's no reason to think he's coming back. And both these guys are excellent, but they're not Khabib. So you're not gonna have that dominant champion like you did with Khabib. But I think this is gonna be a close fight. I think you're looking at some people are still worried about the body of work with Michael Chandler. Was in Bellator for a long time, was really, really good. But again, people were worried about who he fought. He didn't fight a bunch of guys who were that great. Came into the UFC a few months ago and torched Dan Hooker, who was one of the toughest guys in the division, an elite striker. I'm ultimately rolling with Oliveira. Not totally comfortable with it. I think Chandler is certainly a live underdog. The odds, like I said, both ways, minus 135, plus 115, both seem about right. I think you can make a case for both guys. The difference for me is Oliveira is known as one of the greatest submission specialists in the history of the sport. But what has really turned me on Oliveira is his striking. He came into the UFC. He was a well below average striker. Was not only not a strength, it was a weakness. Over his last probably half dozen, 8-10 fights, his striking has not only gone from weakness, it's now turned into a strength. If he can hang with Michael Chandler on the feet, he certainly has an edge on the mat. I think this is going to be a close fight, but I ultimately think the all-around game of Oliveira is the difference.
I'm not used to seeing Edson Barboza as an underdog. He is a slight plus 110 underdog versus Shane Burgos as a minus 130 currently the last time I looked. Who do you like in this fight? Is this a live underdog play?
It is. I'm taking Barboza, but again, another close fight. And I think if you don't like Barboza, the main issue is this is a guy who's been in a ton of fights over the years. He's been beat up. He's been in wars. And it's fair to wonder if all the fights he's been in, kind of like what we saw with Cowboy Cerrone this last week to some extent, it's fair to wonder if all the fights the guy's been in over the years are just starting to take his toll on him. Eventually, your body breaks down physically. And this is a fight between two guys with similar styles. Both guys are crazy aggressive on the feet. Edson's known for his kicks. Burgos is known for having really fast hands. My one issue with Burgos is he's the kind of fighter who is willing to eat a punch to land two of his own. And that's a risky style. That can play against lower end competition when you're not fighting guys who are as good. But when you start facing higher end competition, that style doesn't work. They start beating you up and then you start getting hit 3, 4, and 5 times instead of twice. So I'm taking Barboza in a minor upset, but again, I expect another competitive fight.
Going back to the undercard, they always try to get you psyched up by giving you a nice headline fight right before the pay-per-view starts. The headline fight on the preliminary card is Jacare versus Andre Muniz. They're both minus 110 approximately right now. Explain how the betting odds work and what does that mean for the fight?
But if both guys are minus 110, Vegas is telling you the exact odds are exactly the same and that the result is as 50-50 and as toss-up as it can be.
Back to the main card, Caitlin and Vivian. This fight is going to be a war. Break down this fight as far as what you think is going to happen and if there's a betting edge to be had.
I think there's a betting edge to be had with Vivian. Those of us who read my work on Rotowire, listen to our podcast, Jake and I do. I'm not the biggest Caitlin Chookagian fan. It's a really basic offensive arsenal. She has two things going for her. One is that she's big. She's about 5'7", 5'8". And two is she's durable. She's never been finished. But then you're looking on the opposite side in a fighter who has a very limited offensive arsenal. It's all strikes, and it strikes with very limited power, in the sense that she's not stopping her opposition. I want to say virtually all her UFC wins have come via decision, and that is risky. And again, there's such a gap in this division. The lack of depth in the division is really, really noticeable. And I'm kind of at the point where if it's Chukagian or Jessica Ai or anyone like that, if they're facing an opponent who's halfway decent and is giving me plus money, I'll just take the underdog in hopes that they don't have the requisite skill set to put together a long winning streak, and I can make some cash off the underdog.
You came through for the viewers last time by picking 2 locked-in underdogs. I'm going to put you on the spot again. And obviously, you don't have a crystal ball, but who are your 2 favorite underdog plays this week in the UFC?
Man. So if you're going main card, I like both Barboza and I like Vivian Araujo, who we just mentioned. If I had to go one on the undercard, I'd probably go with Andrea Lee, who's fighting Antonina Shevchenko. Shevchenko, it's the younger sister of Valentina Shevchenko, and Lee are both extremely inconsistent, but I'm willing to bet on the physical gifts of Lee just a little bit more. Again, the money return is not crazy. I think Andrea Lee was something like plus 110 or plus 115. It's nothing crazy. You're not going to get crazy plus money on it, but I see enough there that I would roll the dice with Lee over Shevchenko.
Try Rotowire today, free for 10 days. Get our premium tools, rankings, analysis, and breaking news alerts. No credit card required. Go to rotowire.com/try.